Ever stared at a blank spreadsheet, needing a marketing budget number, and just, well, felt lost?
Oh, absolutely. Like you're just pulling it out of thin air.
Exactly. It's such a common feeling, isn't it? Marketing leaders often grapple with that. How much should we spend?
Where do you even begin? Yeah,
And that's really the mystery we're starting to unpack today on the Trivera Deep Dive.
that's right.
Welcome to Trivera's AI Deep Dive podcast, hosted by Chip and Nova, our AI co-hosts. Together, they transform top marketing insights from our blogs, articles, and events into actionable strategies you can use. Ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to the Deep Dive.
I'm Chip,
And I'm Nova.
ready to unpack a stack of insights just for you.
Today, we're tackling something pretty foundational for growth, building a truly informed marketing budget.
Yeah, specifically, we're zeroing in on industry benchmarks like what companies like yours are actually spending.
And our source material for this deep dive is an excellent article. It's the first in a series, actually, written by our very own Jamie Reinhart from Trivera.
You know, Jamie wrote this piece because he saw this common challenge.
Oh, yeah.
A marketing decision maker meets with a sales rep from an agency to get a proposal for a digital marketing plan. The rep asks the standard question, "What's your budget?" and gets,
I don't have one.
marketing decision makers often feel uncertain about budget. Either they don't have a clear number in mind, or maybe they're hesitant to even discuss it.
Right. And that hesitation, well, it makes strategic planning so much harder, doesn't it?
Totally. Without a realistic budget in mind, you risk proposing plans that are completely out of reach or maybe worse.
You leave significant growth opportunities on the table. Yeah.
Exactly. Jamie's goal with this first article was really to cut through that uncertainty
Okay.
and provide the essential context, the data on what businesses in various industries are realistically spending on marketing. So knowing these benchmarks gives you a data-driven starting point, something solid for those budget conversations.
Think of this deep dive as us building that initial framework together. The sources tell us this is just part one.
Yeah, parts 2 and 3 are coming, which will get more into how to allocate those dollars, specific costs, all that good stuff.
But first things first, you need to know what the typical investment even looks like in your space.
Okay, so let's shift gears then, from the general problem to the actual data Jamie lays out.
Right. When we talk about a marketing budget as a percentage of revenue, it sounds a bit technical maybe.
But it's pretty simple math, fundamentally.
But
Take your company's total annual revenue, multiply by a percentage, boom, marketing budget.
simple enough. But why does that percentage number jump around so much between different businesses? The sources really highlight this huge variation.
Yeah, and it's not random at all. It really comes down to fundamental differences in industries. You know, how they get customers, how long the sales cycle is.
Competitors, market maturity, all that plays in.
Absolutely. The benchmarks Jamie cites show a huge spread, sometimes single digits, sometimes way over 10% of revenue.
Wow. Okay, that range alone is a big takeaway. There's no single magic number.
Definitely not.
So let's dig into some specific industries Jamie covers. First up, manufacturing. How do they stack up?
Manufacturing is typically on the lower end of that range we mentioned. The sources suggest they allocate around, say, 5 to 7% of their annual revenue to marketing.
Okay. Lower end. Why is that? What's the context there?
Well, Jamie explains that B2B manufacturers often rely more heavily on things like direct sales relationships, established distribution channels.
Trade shows, word of mouth referrals built over years.
Exactly. Their customer acquisition often looks very different from, say, a consumer brand needing mass awareness quickly. The article even cites a specific 2024 survey, putting the average at 6.7% for manufacturers.
Got it. So a lower overall percentage. But what about the digital shift? We hear so much about it. Is manufacturing keeping pace?
Oh, they absolutely are.
Yeah.
But the interesting part is the split within that smaller budget. It's significant.
Okay.
The sources say manufacturers now dedicate a pretty substantial portion, typically 50 to 70% of their marketing budget, straight to digital channels.
50 to 70%, even with a lower overall budget.
Yeah. And this digital spend is often focused on things like SEO search engine optimization, making sure they show up when B2B buyers search online.
And platforms like LinkedIn, I imagine,
Yeah.
for reaching procurement folks.
Spot on. LinkedIn is crucial there. Now, traditional methods like trade shows and, print catalogs, they still have a significant presence, definitely.
But digital's taking a bigger slice, even in manufacturing.
Clearly, it's where a lot of the action is moving.
That is interesting. Even in a seemingly traditional field, digital dominates the allocation.
Hmm.
Okay, what about an industry that feels, well, inherently more digital, like travel and entertainment?
Right. As you probably guess, this sector invests a higher percentage overall. The benchmark Jamie gives is typically around 7 to 8.4% of revenue.
Higher, okay.
And the sources note a specific trend here, too. These budgets have actually increased recently. There was a big rebound post-pandemic as travel and entertainment obviously picked up again.
Makes sense. And given how we all book flights, hotels, experiences online now, I have to assume digital takes the absolute lion's share of that budget.
You are spot on. The article describes this sector as heavily digital. Over 50%, and often, frankly, much more than that, goes into digital tactics.
Like what specifically?
We're talking search engine marketing, SEM, those paid ads you see in search results, placements on online travel agencies, OTAs, think Expedia, Booking.com.
Right.
And very specific geo-targeted ads hitting people based on location or travel intent. Traditional stuff like billboards or TV, they're still used, but they're really secondary. Digital's the main engine.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense for that market. Okay, how does healthcare compare? Another industry with a pretty unique customer relationship.
Healthcare organizations, according to Jamie's sources, typically spend about 5 to 10% of their revenue on marketing. Bit of a range there.
5 to 10%.
But there's an important nuance Jamie points out. Within healthcare, certain high-growth sectors, maybe specialized providers, they might invest even more aggressively, sometimes up to 14%.
Interesting. So variation even within the broader industry.
Definitely. And the digital picture for healthcare. You asked about reaching patients online.
Yeah, seems increasingly important.
Critically important. The data suggests over 90% of healthcare marketers are using digital channels now.
Wow, over 90%.
Yeah. Hospitals, clinics, pharma companies, they're prioritizing strategies like SEO, so people find them online, patient portals for engagement and information, social media for outreach, community building.
But not only digital, I guess.
No, not entirely.
Yeah.
Traditional elements like, educational brochures in doctors' offices, community health events, they still play a valuable role in their overall mix.
Got it. Okay, let's shift back to the B2B world for a second. Specifically, business services like professional services firms, agencies, B2B software companies. What do the sources say there?
This sector tends to have a relatively high marketing investment. Their budgets average around 10 to 12% of revenue.
10 to 12? That's pretty significant.
It is. And similar to what we saw in high-growth healthcare, Jamie notes that particularly fast-growing software as a service companies, they might blow past even that 12% benchmark. They're often just focused on rapid scaling.
Right, grabbing market share quickly. So high total investment, how digital is that spending?
Quite digital. The sources state that typically 50 to 75% of these marketing budgets are focused on digital activities.
And the core drivers there, lead gen.
Lead generation is huge, absolutely. Finding new clients. Also, content marketing, email campaigns, SEO is big, and heavily leveraging platforms like LinkedIn.
LinkedIn again. Seems like the B2B backbone.
It really is for networking and prospecting. Events and trade journals get mentioned in the sources, but they generally seem to support the digital strategy rather than leading it.
Okay. One more category, a different model again. Community nonprofits. They aren't really revenue-driven in the same way.
That's right. So for nonprofits, the benchmark is usually measured differently as a percentage of their total organizational budget, not just revenue from, say, services.
And what's that range look like?
It's broader here, according to the sources, somewhere between 5 and 15%.
5 to 15% of the total budget.
Yeah. And the article mentions that smaller nonprofits might actually invest proportionally more than larger ones sometimes. They often need to build awareness and drive donations or volunteers really efficiently with pretty limited resources.
Makes sense. And their digital approach. I guess cost efficiency is absolutely key there.
Absolutely. Nonprofits tend to favor digital precisely because it can be more cost-effective. They're often strategic about leveraging things like grant-funded tools.
Like the Google Ads grants.
Exactly, things like that for search advertising. Now, traditional outreach fundraising events, direct mail campaigns, they're still part of the strategy for many. It's a mixed approach.
But digital offers that crucial reach and efficiency, especially on a tight budget.
Couldn't have said it better.
Okay, so what we're seeing across all these industries, it's fascinating. While the total marketing spend varies quite a bit depending on the sector's dynamics.
Like we discussed.
That shift towards digital, it's pretty much universal, often eating up 50% or, way more of the total budget.
Yeah. That's a clear pattern. And Jamie also briefly touches on some common expenses these digital budgets actually cover.
Right. Because having the budget number is one thing, knowing where it goes is another. So when you're allocating those digital dollars,
The ongoing costs typically go towards things like, well, SEO, obviously, pay-per-click advertising, PPC running paid ads on Google or social media.
content creation.
Huge. Content creation, analytics tools to track performance, CRO, conversion rate optimization, making your website actually convert visitors better.
And just running various digital campaigns, I suppose.
Exactly. Then you sometimes have larger, maybe one-time digital investments, like a big website redesign or moving to a new marketing automation platform.
And the sources also mention agencies, right, as an alternative.
Yeah, the point is made that for many companies, working with a digital marketing agency can be a more flexible and potentially cost-effective way to get specialized expertise for all these things compared to trying to build a huge in-house team from scratch.
Okay, so that kind of covers the landscape of what others are spending and generally where that digital money tends to go.
Exactly. Understanding these benchmarks gives you that really crucial context.
But, knowing the average is one thing. Starting to figure out your specific number, that's the next step.
And it's a step we'll look into right after we take this short break.
Hi, I'm Webster, Trivera's AI assistant, here to help businesses like yours thrive in the ever-changing digital landscape. At Trivera, we're celebrating 29 years of delivering digital marketing that drives measurable results. Since 1996, we've partnered with southeastern Wisconsin's strongest brands, blending creativity, strategy, and cutting-edge technology like me to produce success you can measure. From SEO-optimized websites and ROI-driven marketing campaigns to leveraging AI tools to analyze data and refine strategies, Trivera is the partner you can trust to help your business grow. Now, as we enter our 30th year, we're more committed than ever to pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible in digital marketing. With decades of experience and the power of AI on the team, we're ready to help you tackle whatever's next. Visit Trivera.com today and let's make 2025 the year your business thrives. Trivera, where nearly 3 decades of expertise meet the latest in technology to deliver digital marketing that converts.
Welcome back to Trivera's AI Deep Dive. Now back to our conversation with Chip and Nova.
Okay, we're back.
We've spent a lot of time looking at industry benchmarks for digital marketing budgets. Now we need to make it relevant.
Yes, definitely. Because understanding these benchmarks isn't just about knowing numbers in the abstract, right? It's the essential starting point for building your own informed marketing budget and strategy.
Exactly. Which is why Janie's article provides a really simple, practical exercise to help you start building your own potential budget number based on these benchmarks we've been talking about.
All right, let's walk through the scenario the article uses. It's a hypothetical B2B manufacturer, right?
Okay.
With $25 million in annual revenue.
Yep, $25 million revenue. And we know from the benchmarks we just discussed, manufacturing typically spends, 5 to 7% of revenue on marketing?
Right. So for this example, the article uses a figure smack in the middle, 6%.
Okay, so math time. You take that annual revenue, $25 million.
Multiply it by 6% or 0.06.
That gives you an annual marketing investment of $1.5 million. That's the total potential marketing budget based on the benchmark.
Okay, 1.5 million total. Now we need the digital split for manufacturing. The sources put that between 50 and 70%.
Right, so using the lower end of that range, 50%. You take that total $1,500,000 budget.
And multiply it by 50%.
It calculates to an annual digital marketing budget of $750,000.
$750,000. So for this hypothetical $25 million manufacturer, using industry averages.
A solid starting point for their digital budget specifically would be around $750,000 per year.
And like we discussed, that $750K is the slice that would fund all those ongoing digital things, SEO, PPC, content, analytics, and so on.
Seeing the math laid out like that just makes it very tangible, doesn't it?
It really does. It turns that abstract benchmark percentage into a concrete dollar figure you can actually discuss.
And that brings us, really, to the most important part for you, the listener. Now it's your turn.
Yeah, the sources really encourage you to take a moment, maybe even grab a pen or open a note app, jot down your own numbers.
And ask yourself these key questions based on your company and your specific industry.
First, pretty straightforward. What is your company's annual revenue? Or, if you're a nonprofit, what's your total organizational budget? Get that number down.
Okay, next, look at that number and try to figure out What percentage of that revenue or total budget are you currently investing in marketing? What's your current overall percentage?
And then try to break down your current marketing spend. How much of that total amount goes specifically to digital channels and activities? What's that digital portion look like?
And finally, the comparison step. Take your numbers and compare them to the benchmarks we've discussed today for your industry. Based on those averages, are you potentially underinvesting compared to your peers?
Or maybe overinvesting in certain areas. It cuts both ways.
Good point. And look, this simple exercise isn't the end of building your budget. Not by a long shot.
No, but as the article emphasizes, it's such a critical first step. It gives you that data-backed starting point.
Lets you understand how your current investment stacks up and really sets the stage for the next steps in the whole budgeting process.
Which perfectly wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into building an informed marketing budget.
Yeah, we've seen today that marketing spend is definitely not a one-size-fits-all number. It varies hugely by industry based on fundamental market dynamics.
And we've also confirmed that shift towards digital is just, well, powerful and pervasive. It's consuming a major chunk of marketing budgets pretty much everywhere.
Understanding these benchmarks, it just gives you essential context. It's the foundation you need to start building a truly strategic budget, not just, guessing.
So thinking about all this, what's really thought-provoking to me is how dynamic these digital benchmarks are bound to be.
Good point. They're not static.
Right. As new platforms pop up, algorithms change, consumer behavior evolves online. These splits between digital and traditional, even the allocation within digital, they're going to keep shifting, aren't they?
Absolutely. It's a moving target.
So the provocative question for you listening is this. How will your industry's benchmark likely shift in the coming years as digital keeps evolving?
And maybe more importantly, how can you use this benchmark data right now? Not just to see if you're keeping pace,
but maybe to proactively justify strategic investments internally or identify opportunities you might be missing if you find out you're lagging behind your peers.
That's a powerful way to think about it, using benchmarks as a lever for future growth, not just a report card on the past.
Exactly. Now, this deep dive, as we mentioned, was based on part 1 of the Building an Informed Marketing Budget series, written by Trivera's own Jamie Reinhardt.
So if you want to explore the original article, see the specific data points we talked about today, you can find it on the Trivera website.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the journey. The sources mentioned, parts 2 and 3 are coming next.
Right. Part 2 is specifically set to break down how those digital dollars, once you have that total number, our $750,000 example.
How that money can actually be allocated across core recurring digital marketing activities, like a framework for where to put that budget.
And then part 3 will likely dig even deeper into specific costs associated with those activities, plus smart allocation strategies to make sure your budget is working as hard as it possibly can for you.
So definitely stay tuned for our next deep dive as we continue building your informed marketing budget piece by piece based on Jamie's work.
Keep exploring those numbers for your own situation and keep asking those tough strategic questions.
We'll see you next time on the Trivera Deep Dive.
Thanks for joining us on Trivera's AI Deep Dive with Chip and Nova. If you enjoyed this episode, you can find more and stay up to date with new episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, or find them on our website and our social media channels. And don't forget to visit us at Trivera.com to learn how we can help take your marketing to the next level. Ready to talk? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.